Hey everybody, welcome to the Mountain Deer Podcast. I'm Rodney Elmer, and I'm here with everybody at Deer Camp. Hi guys.
What's up?
2020, you gotta love it.
It's happening.
The Puffer's here. I missed you on all the podcasts, Puff.
I know. It's great.
Great to have him here.
I miss Jimmy.
A big part of deer hunting or doing anything, because this is the information age, is information, right? And
Yeah.
it's so expensive, especially when you do it the way we do it. You know, we're gathering our intelligence during the season.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
We're doing it on the fly.
Yeah, we're also doing a lot of it on foot, like walking and finding, and then we're doing a fair amount of it too with the vehicles, looking, you know, and sniffing and circling and trying to find access to the woods, you know, and where you can come and go from, so that you have that base of navigation when you start off into who knows where, in the mountains or whatever. So we're doing a lot of those different things, and that information is very expensive.
Yeah.
When I look at the walls and you see all those deer up there, between Jimmy's, yours, you guys', you know, all three of you and mine, that is a pile of walking. How many miles is that?
Miles.
Yeah.
Miles
How many
and miles.
boots
And
have you
miles.
wore out?
Well, it's almost a pair of boots a year.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, easy.
Yep.
And out of the 20, boy, this is 27 years of coming to Maine for me. So in the 27 years of coming up here, that's 27 pairs of boots right there.
If you're averaging like something small.
Some years you go through two boots.
Yeah, if you're poking
because
it,
you go through
Poke a
some
hole
of the
in 'em or
stuff that you
something.
went through. This
you ended up in
Be
a chunk
lucky-
of woods
yeah.
you didn't want.
you'll be
end up
lucky to
with.
get out of here without buying a new pair of boots. I
Oh
love that
yeah.
video.
Oh, no question. And when you're like trying to gather information and you walk through a piece of woods and you're finding the garbage woods, the good woods,
Yeah.
the places where the deer are going and where they're not going, and there's so many like square miles of no deer.
I think one of the things that makes it difficult and expensive, and when you, in this context, the expensive is time.
Mm-hmm.
The expense of how long it takes you to gather a good amount of information
During the season.
during the
It's-
season
it's
or
eating
in
the
in
season
early
up.
season, because the woods change dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like all of a sudden there'll be a giant clear cut, right? And now the spot that was full of deer last year, you're spending a lot of time to see if they still are in there, and if it turns out that they're not right now, you spent 2 days finding out where they're not right now.
Yeah.
And especially if you have snow, now you had snow, you had good tracking snow, but you like went back there where it was good last year. Now there's no deer there.
Mm-hmm.
So you wasted 2 days. Well, you think you wasted 2 days to find where they're not, to lose the opportunity, and now you're hunting on old snow to just run around barnyards.
Yeah.
Because they made so many tracks by day 3 or day 4.
And of course, as soon as you start getting fussy about which deer you're going to shoot, now you're even more, because you're trying to find a deer that was there last year and may or may not be there this year,
Yeah.
and may be there but not there that day. And you can go in and poke around a little bit and say, oh, I can't find him anywhere. He doesn't seem to exist.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you come back a week later and there he is. And he's only there for another day or two. And then he's gone again. And you can easily blow lots of time. And if you don't have the vast majority of the season, we're really lucky. We got lots of time to hunt. So that makes a big difference for us. Otherwise, I mean, most people would consider the way we're doing it stupid.
Asinine.
And yeah, it's
he had that term ready. He had that like it was in the holster. He's like,
yeah, here it comes.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's true. I mean, I think, what are we at now for mileage on a Jeep?
we actually just crossed because the Jeep only goes to 99999, then rolls
On the
over to-
trip
So
meter.
on the
Right.
trip meter. So I think right now we're 2,200 miles.
Yeah. So we've done some driving, and seriously, not as much as we've done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right,
think
we've done a lot of short trips this year.
I usually average 3,000-4,000, and in a few years we've gone 6 and 7. The years we went to Ontario and stuff.
Yeah.
it's a long ways.
Right.
It's a lot of miles.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to fuel efficiency or if the price per pound,
Of meat.
right, it's not at all. And
So definitely cheaper to go to the store.
Yeah, at that point for sure. You know.
So how do you make it so that way it costs you less time to get the most information?
Well, you don't do it. You do preseason. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
you go
like,
looking ahead of the season.
You scout ahead and you hunt a same patch of woods and you don't spread out, because that's one of the things that makes us. We're not trying to do this efficiently. We're waking up in the morning and saying, "Hey, where do you guys want to hunt today?" Right? That's not how you do it.
No.
Right? If we were like, "All right, let's put a map of the area. We're gonna start here and do grids. We're gonna do a real sweep," like we were putting on a war against these things. You could do this, and the way we do it super efficiently. But it's part of the dynamic and the leaving it open ended, the mystery, and just going out there and just kind of doing it, and not having it be. We're not super serious about killing a deer. You have to put that into context beginning to start with. You know what I mean? Cocoa Puff, what time do we get up?
I don't know. We used to get up when it was
we went to bed.
We used to be in the woods when it's pitch black. Now lately we're like, yeah.
We'll get up when we get up.
I think we fired. I know. I started Jimmy's truck around like 9:10 this morning.
You guys.
It was a rainy day.
It's a rainy
This was
day.
an information day.
I'm not a fan of rainy days.
No,
Yeah.
Jimmy's got some bigger glasses because he doesn't like
My
looking at
glasses
frames,
don't like rainy days.
and they just beat up on it all the time.
No,
It's not
when we head into logging country, the first information we want is where are they cutting right now, so that we can get out of the way of the trucks, hopefully, and not, they need the road, and we try not to be under their feet, but we're also in the same area, so we are careful as possible to stay out from underneath them and let them do their thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is, like, what piece of woods did we really like last year that's now gone?
Or what? How much? What changed? basically?
Right. What changed on the
some of them
landscape?
clear cuts.
Yeah, I mean, I was in one today that's a solid 100 acres or more, and it's flatter than flat.
Last year the year before last we tracked Mr. Rogers through there.
Yeah, and now there's no woods.
Now you can just sit there on a stump and look at nothing.
Yeah, listen to the wind blow, literally. And I walked across that brand new dirt today, just looking for a track in the mud. And there was one 2.5-year-old that went through early last night in the middle of all that rain in a 100-acre area there. There's one track, like across brand new dirt. And it's brand new dirt that takes you 20 minutes or more to walk across it.
Yeah, because we had about an
huge.
inch and a half of rain last night.
It rained a lot.
So
And it rained all day today too.
Right.
Yeah,
And I
it
could
was
have easily
light,
missed something, but our first thing is usually like where they're logging, what's going on, what roads are open or closed. Some roads end up getting closed. They take out the bridge, or they put in rock berms or whatever. They change and they move from area to area. So the first thing is, what's the deal with the logging? What condition are the roads in, especially the main roads?
What's the snow deal?
Yeah,
Snow has a huge influence because that's the bread and butter of tracking.
When was the last time it rained? What's the deal with the weather, and how's it affected the land, and how much of the woods that we're used to hunting are still there? And we're also looking at like where they cut years ago and how that area is coming along. So we end up like looking at areas and like a cut, how much the cut has grown, and how things are coming.
We actually, the way we hunt kind of feels like migratory caribou.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it is. Yeah, we're coming in and looking for the best place to feed on the mountains.
Well, last year it was kind of good over here, and
this year not so hot. The brush has grown like crazy. That the year that you shot roan there, that 222, right? That year was grass.
Yes,
there was grass,
everywhere.
Huge brown grass in every cut, everywhere. It was like an ocean of grass. I have to admit, it's the grassiest year I've ever seen.
You look out in a cut and it looks perfectly smooth, and you walk through there and go, "Whoa!" and you're just falling into a hole, and
everything's
you're
hidden.
like, what the heck? Oh yeah,
the stumps and the rocks and all the tracks from the equipment. It was just bony in there, and you can't see anything with that grass. And that was a year for grass. It was like, wow. And they were in it.
Right. This year's old man's beard.
Yeah. That's the other thing, is like what they're feeding on.
Right.
This year was a crazy year for old man's beard. It was on even like white birches are covered with it. I was looking at some today, the entire tree all the way to the top covered in old man's beard. And for it to grow on a perfectly good sound hardwood tree and have tons of it.
And this
kinda
year
strange.
being so dry, that's so weird too.
They didn't
Yeah.
want any of the raspberry bushes. It's weird. It's like
Well, it's
they
because
were,
those are so dry.
Oh, yeah. so it's like
raspberry
they're-
bushes were
so-
dry. It was a drought this summer.
it was kind of a boomerang. Cuts were really great last year. Now cuts are not necessarily that great, or the older cuts aren't as good. The newer ones, they have a higher density. Their deer don't have to go as far to get as much of the old man's beard or as much of the really big root systems of the red maples and stuff like that. But the raspberries, they could care less about them. And so that information, well, how long did it take us to figure that out?
Quite a while.
2 weeks, probably.
Yeah, we were probably 2 weeks of really trying to key in and figure out
On
what
the
they're
feed.
eating and what they're
Right,
doing.
because basically the second week we just had 6-degree weather, so it was nothing was happening.
Well, that's the other thing about gathering your information is that the conditions for the gathering. When it's super dry and the ground's hard as a rock and the deer don't leave any tracks
And
anywhere,
there's no snow.
and there's no snow, it makes it really tough to figure out what's going on and even how many deer there are. Like if the population was down a little bit, you wouldn't be able to even talk about it. You wouldn't know.
And so basically we pick our days when, like today was a rainy day. So what we thought was, well, we should go to somewhere new, because we can go to the old place that we've always been going, but we're not going to get anything new. We're just going to walk and flip-flop in woods and maybe run into a deer. Or if we go somewhere new, we find some new roads that's kind of close to where we've been hunting. So that way when conditions are good and we need to sweep the roads to look for tracks, we'll be able to get that information as quickly as possible and maybe save a couple miles driving the trucks, basically.
Mm-hmm. Also, too, like you might find a new surprise.
Yeah.
You might find a pocket of does you didn't know about that is close.
Because you hadn't been there.
Because you had never been there before. So
Right.
the exploring part of it, it's easy as a hunter to get stuck in a rut of where you shot a deer last year, or like one road is really good, and sometimes too you can get into almost exploring too much. You can go the other way and explore so much that you never really end up concentrating on something and
For
really
sure.
figuring it out and going to
Right,
it.
finding those really important nuggets, right? You can find the general good stuff, but the really good gold nuggets are usually down by walking. But that takes so much time because you can only walk so many miles in a day. And get that information, of course, 100 yards this way or that way could make or break what you learn there as well.
Yeah.
If your parcels of land are small, going to a new area is no big deal. Because you can do a large sample size relative to the area that you're hunting in. When you have like a really huge, diverse area of like terrain and different kind of forest types and stuff, it's like, and you have a small group of guys.
Where do I start?
You know what I mean? Let's like you're eating an elephant. You're like, well, we'll just right here, right? You gotta take a bite somewhere, right? So you kind of have to go for it, and then try to get as much data as you can in that day. But also, because you're hunting simultaneously, you're not just gonna like take off and you're just like making mental notes, running through the woods to figure everything out. You still have to hunt, because at any second you can come onto them.
Right, and
That's
see
how
them-
it is here.
Yep.
See them before they see you.
So
kind of thing.
the scouting while you're hunting is a risky part of it, but it makes the hunting more productive when you're not on a deer right then, right? So if you have conditions that aren't great for tracking, like it's bare ground, what are you gonna do? In a large area with a small population of deer relative to the size, it doesn't make any sense to sit. Go learn, go find good areas, and eat regardless of whether you're a sitter, still hunter, or tracker, whatever. You want to go find a good area to be in, right? There's no point finding a spot that you like to sit if there's no deer. That's a waste of your time.
There's been the other thing too is like you're gathering information from the vehicle, and you'll be looking at the landscape. You'll be looking at forest types. You'll be looking for edges. You'll be looking for access, like where you can park and start in hunting and stuff like that, in and out of the woods, and marking those on the GPS. Then there's the boots on the ground part where you're getting out of the truck now. You've picked a chunk of woods to give a try, and each one of us sort of has different things we look for certain.
Yeah, which is like a way you like to walk, woods you like to be in.
Well, I know one of the first thing that Coco always does is it's roads. And it's like, first thing he did today is like, we're going to learn the roads today. And why is that? Why do you...
How many times you been walking miles and miles in the woods and you pop out on a road? It's like, where'd this road come from?
Right.
Didn't even know it was here. Well,
Yeah.
it come in from another whole side of the mountain.
Yep.
And it's good to know if you shoot a deer over there,
You'll save a
don't
drag.
have to drag it as
Yeah.
far.
Yep.
Right.
You're 2 miles from the rig.
Yep.
Plus, it makes it easier to explain at the end of the day where you are.
Yep. It's,
I mean, you need to know.
We've got a lot of time into learning the roads where we hunt.
Oh yeah.
And you're still always learning something
It's
new.
an ever-growing
Yeah.
collection of roads too.
Oh yeah.
See, like the way the land is parceled off changes because they're not throwing roads into grids. They're throwing them where it's easy to build a road, and that changes the shape and access into whatever land. But you not only is it changing when you look straight down on it, but it also changes the access and elevation too. Because way back when we first started coming up here as us boys and not necessarily you guys, there were no roads to the top of really anything. Most of the big mountains, they came up to the bottom and that was it. And they hadn't begun cutting higher up in elevation. So all the skid trails and all the actual grubbed in roads, like there's tons of places I'm sure you're thinking of that just you can drive right up there now.
Yeah, the road network has almost doubled since Jimmy and I started.
Which changes your places you can pick up a track, which changes your options, which also is a problem. Because when you're spoiled for choice. And to say you spend an hour checking all your snowy back roads and stuff and all your landings, no tracks, right? Now you kind of like you're picking a spot relative to kind of where you ended up finishing looking at roads and not where it's going to really be the best. Because you have that like, I think we all have that kind of, I need to get in the woods. I don't want to be in the truck, right? You don't get them in the truck. I don't want to be in the truck. I want to hunt in the woods. Right. So you're like anywhere, right? And you end up needing kind of a system. You need a system. Because it's a bit hard to tame with the dynamics of where and when and how we do this. It's a bit harder than other areas. Like
it's hard to explain.
Back home, Groton State Forest is Groton State Forest, and those trails haven't changed in a very long time. And even if they do, it's not drastic.
And the deer run the same every single year.
All the notches are the same. The woods types are the same relatively.
The forests don't change that much. Around here,
the
can
good
have
spots.
Forests
road.
don't change because they don't cut nothing.
Yeah,
Right?
seriously, they don't. They're the complete opposite end of it. So
Right.
you have to figure out the kind of dynamics for the area that you're in and what the effects that's going to be on how you're going to hunt.
Oh, sure. I don't think there's very few roads that Jimmy and I haven't been in or been on in the 25, 27, 29 years of coming up here from, the majority of Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, all the way over to 27 and another 30 miles east of that, which is probably almost 60 miles across and maybe 40 miles wide. We're talking 1,000 square miles that we've been on all the roads and kind of seen and know a fair amount about them. And even if it was only once or twice and we went on a road, and what it connects to and how to get in and out on all of that's the fun of it. Number one for me, and I know it is for him because we've had a blast. Driving around, learning the roads.
The amount of rainy days Coco and I have driven around in the truck
I don't
street,
know
him
if we
teaching
get
me
through
roads.
there, but we're gonna go.
Let's give it a try, right? And of course, then when you come up every year, some roads are closed now, and you're not open anymore. Other roads are opened up, or they're about to be opened up. So you get this little bit of dread when you see the pink ribbons going out, and you know, they're going to slaughter this.
Yeah.
And then you close your eyes, and then the next year you come back and you go, oh.
And it's gone.
It's different.
Yeah.
Or it's not as bad, or they didn't do it. Sometimes they don't cut.
Couple times we've been surprised.
Yeah.
But usually when you see the big wood, won't take long. It'll be gone.
Yeah. You go hunt there.
Yeah. But it gives you a chance to have things change up. Otherwise, it might be a little dry. You know, it does change things up some.
Yeah.
It can be discouraging when you got a really nice spot and you've had really good luck there. And like that big old, 4 or 5, like fire tower there. He had, 7 or 8 big, huge 10-inch.
Oh, yeah. And he tore them apart.
Maple and ash signpost rubs. They were huge, and he was just hammering those trees. And then one year we drove back and everything's gone.
Yeah.
And we went, whoa.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure deer's still using that spot, but it is what it is. And I'd be curious to see what it actually does to a lot of the wildlife locally when you do take out, a big patch in an area there, and what kind of effect it has on the deer.
One of the things we see here is it's almost like lowering the water level of water in your pond.
Yeah.
It pushes all of the animals and all the creatures down into a smaller, denser area, but the stuff they go into
is denser,
right? Because they're going to retreat into the woods that doesn't get cut. And the woods that doesn't get cut around here is not a friendly hunting ground.
No.
Not happy hunting ground. Not even close.
Well, they're woods that got cut a while back. And now they're like rabbit jail.
Right. Oh yeah. And they're 20 years into their 100-year cycle.
Put your head down and plow.
Yeah, and they're not people friendly at all for walking around, shooting.
You jumped that doe in your recent video, and you put your hand up, and the two trees are one's at your fingertip and one's at your wrist, and Jimmy's like, I can't even fit through that sideways. He's like, we ain't going in there. And that is the case. There's stuff that like
you can't hardly even push your way through.
No, you can't.
Yeah, you have to stuff your rifle in it and push all the trees sideways and put yourself in the hole in order to even get started.
Yeah, it's some like jungle stuff.
Yeah, there's some really.
It starts to get 3-4 inches big and it's 8 inches apart. You ain't getting through.
Yeah,
just wicked.
I've been in so many places I had to throw it in reverse because it's like you can't get through.
Lock in the hubs and burn out of there.
It's saved a lot of deer, and it's changed what deer do.
Yep.
Because probably
you've seen different.
The deer and their attitude and how they do things have probably changed dramatically.
When we first started coming up, it was nothing to see a big, huge buck with 3 or 4 doe out in the big, giant hardwoods.
Yeah.
And they would blow at you and run some. And then stop and look back, and then boingity, boingity, boing, and run off a little bit, and blow, and just doink to doink. And now it's nothing but a blur, and they're not looking back, and they hardly put their tail up, and they run like crazy, and they've been hunted pretty hard and been right after them. So things have changed. The dynamics have changed in the deer themselves, much less the way we go about it and the number of people that are going about it. When we first started coming up, there wasn't too many people, and there was a good medium amount of deer. And then the deer herd grew pretty big, and there was lots of people hunting. It was nothing to follow 35 trucks.
Normal prey predator kind of thing.
Yep, it was nothing to follow 35 trucks out into the woods, or we'd be over in Pittsburgh and 6 or 8 trucks would drive by us as we were getting ready to go out,
Yeah.
So it was normal to see lots of hunters. And then lately, especially up to about 10 years ago when they had some really bad winters up here and the herd crashed quite a bit, it was tough. They had 2 real back-to-back bad winters. And I think Maine's Department of Fish and Wildlife had lost a couple $1 million worth of license sales because everybody's like, Maine's terrible, and they lost a lot of deer. And in the last 10 years or so, it's come back around. It's bounced a little bit, and it's doing a lot better. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of deer down where you guys live. Up here, there's never really a lot of deer. There's never going to be a lot of deer up here. But you guys got a lot down by the coast, and that's that's the way it goes. But overall, the number of hunters that are up here is medium, small, and their ages are getting older.
Yeah,
there's very few young guys like yourselves up here.
So basically, your success is going to come down to the amount of work you want to put into it. A lot of guys, you see the trail cameras are big right now, and the Bluetooth. There's a bucket. He's over my food plot right now. Sweet, and you can see it all. And of course, that's all. We don't really do that a lot, mostly because we're 2.5 hours. We're at least 2.5 hours away from where we hunt, so it's kind of hard to do that on a daily basis.
It's not convenient to do a lot of at non-hunting season stuff with your cameras and checking stuff out and scouting and all that stuff. And I think 2 years ago you and I came up just for fun, on an October day.
That's pretty rare.
Super rare. And it was mostly just to see, hey, what are the woods like? You want to go? Want to go up, check the woods? Sure. Yeah. It was just like a spur of the moment thing.
Right.
If you want to be super efficient and have it all your ducks in a row and make, and
it will pay.
It will pay off. It'll pay off in the actual getting a deer.
Oh yeah,
It will,
makes a
because
difference.
the most amount of information you can have prior to putting your boots on the ground and the most that you can collect in a short period of time is going to speed it up. One of the things that we do is once you find out the type of woods that the feed or the deer that you're seeing are in, now you take that back to your maps. You take that back to like Google Earth or whatever, and you check that spot out, and you look for
Similarities.
you look for similarities across the landscape, and you say, well, this area, this area, this area, this area all look pretty good. So now we've just taken that wider area and shrunken it down to these specific spots, and you go look for consistency in those spots. You can say, well, is this actually a thing? Was it a fluke, or is this a pattern?
Just like bass fishing. Right?
Exactly.
You develop a pattern. You shrink the lake as much as you can into a few spots. You figure out what works, and then start applying it and looking for those same circumstances that fit everywhere else.
That's right.
Which may not last long because the weather changes, the snow melts, right? The rut, hunter pressure, the woods are gone. I mean, there's tons of things. There's tons of things that just come along. And myself, I like to be able to fly by the seat of my pants and figure it out and do the best I can. But that comes at a price, and you'll probably go without deer more often than not. And especially as soon as you start getting fussy, you're going to go without them even more.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's because the other thing too is the approach to deer season being a bit more of a vacation and not something you want to go get one, right? And if you want to go get one, you turn it on, you go get it done. But if the majority of your season is spent pretty relaxed,
It'll cost you.
That's right.
Yep.
If you don't decide and you don't pick and you don't get super specific and focus and put energy into it, most of the time you end up with nothing. And that's kind of like the rule of life in general. Right. And that definitely applies to deer hunting as well.
Failure to plan is a plan to fail kind of thing.
Right. And you got to give her some, and you can't let up, and this place beats you down mentally.
These weather conditions anywhere do, I think.
Yeah. This has been a tough mental season, and keeping yourself together and just staying focused and just giving it all you got while you can and doing your best. I mean, you have to measure your hunting season by how hard you worked at it.
Right, not by your success.
Yeah, by effort.
It does, because ultimately, that's really where those miles start adding up when you've got all them bucks, and you say, man, I walked for 6 weeks straight. The year I shot the coyote buck, right?
All season.
That was an entire 6 weeks of walking and looking and going and going and going.
November 1st to the middle of December,
the
man.
last day, bang. So it's like, man, you do the best you can with what you got always. Yeah. And just because you didn't get a deer doesn't mean you didn't hunt hard, and didn't mean you really give it some. And it is what it is. You do the best you can.
Weren't that the year you let a 200-pounder go on the first day?
Yeah,
that was the.
He really milked that season. He really did.
That was day one, baby. I know.
And that's our problem, though. We kind of don't want to shoot one on the first week,
right? Because we love hunting so much.
A lot of times you pass and you're not getting one.
This year, our best week, I think, was the first week.
Yeah,
we had snow first day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we had one day there. We had 5 buck going.
Yeah,
between all of us, we had 5 buck going all at once.
It was a great week.
Yeah, that was a really good week. Fred definitely on the biggest, and then you and I were on a real scorcher too. So you'll get those times when everything, like 3 or 4 really good days where everything lines up, and then you got to have a big one.
Yeah.
And finding a big, huge track when everybody else is trying to do the same exact thing, not easy to do.
Well,
then you just got to be fresh enough, and it can't be antique.
And it's got to stop. Right. It's got to slow down.
No, you got to be able to catch them.
Right.
Yeah,
you can't be 10 miles behind.
That's our problem a lot of times is by the second week, they're just running around crazy, and it's like
they never lay down.
Literally cannot. They eat and walk, and then they run some more. And you're like,
you can have the biggest track in the world, and if that thing's 20 minutes ahead of you and it doesn't stop, you're never going to see that thing. I don't care if you run after it. Even if he's walking, I mean, you don't catch the buggers. And sometimes it feels funny to go really fast because you're thinking, I'm just going to blow it.
And you might.
And you might.
And you might.
And you have to take that chance, because if you don't meet him, it ain't happening anyway.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can tell when you're going to meet him, and sometimes you can't.
Sometimes it's better to jump him and know it's fresh than go the whole time and think it is.
Yeah. Or we, like this year, we get going, you and I, and he goes to a barnyard. We circle the barnyard and find him leaving, and it is the original track that he made early.
We did a loop to the Jeep.
We did a loop.
We did an entire day dead loop and came back
to the Jeep
exact
where we
same
started.
spot where we picked it up, and he was
That's
so
exactly
mad.
why I don't like antique tracks.
Now,
But
it wasn't all that antique when we started.
no.
And we somehow lost and got it screwed up in this huge barnyard and found the track exiting, what we
Yeah.
thought was exiting,
Yep.
and it wasn't. And it made that giant loop all the way out. And we were 3/8 of a mile out past the Jeep. We go away from the Jeep, through the barnyard, downhill half a mile or more, and then on an angle, another 3/8 of a mile behind the Jeep. And we're thinking he's just leaving now. Now he's headed west and he's just leaving. And then he just does this 180. And I said to Taylor, oh, no. And he's pointed at the Jeep. And I'm like, this isn't good. Now, sometimes
We've
they
got
do
that-
that,
those
and
things.
it's not a dead loop, right?
Right,
You
yeah.
still can't let up.
No.
Now, everything's melting like crazy, and we can't tell. Everything's just rotting.
Yeah, the snow is
this
headed.
is him, and now he's headed for the Jeep, and we're getting closer and closer, and we go across the clear cut, and I said, oh,
We
you
get to the
bugger.
spruces, and he's like, "It's right there." And I
We
was
are
like,
we're three clear cuts away from the Jeep.
It was so
and
funny.
he turns and goes right for it, and I'm like, you bugger. And he goes a little farther, and as I'm going, I'm getting more and more confirmation that we're going the wrong way, we're behind. And then we end up right at the Jeep, and it's like totally disgusted. We're spent. We spent the whole day. We're done.
Yep.
And we can't do anything about it.
It was almost like, "Thank you for taking the buck toward this nice plot of land." Right? And it was like, "And your exits to the left." Like it just felt like a tour of that small block
Right.
of woods.
Now we've got like 35 minutes left.
Yeah.
So we say, well, let's now take the vehicle and see if he left this block of woods, which we can only check 3 sides.
Right.
But we walked across the 4th side. So odds are good, and we jump in the Jeep, we drive all the way around, and that bugger's still in there. Right? He didn't come out of that block of woods. He's in there somewhere, and
Yep.
it's dark, and we got to leave, and the snow's rotting so fast, even as we're leaving, it's bye-bye,
Right.
and we're done.
Yeah,
and it
and
was
like-
it eats at you. And that information about that deer, we learned a lot about him and where he hangs out, what he does, and all that stuff. But it's moot now. It's
Costs you a day.
totally moot. And unless we get snow and we happen to go back to that road, right? And it was an expensive day.
Well,
It really was.
Barnyard slow you down, and if sometimes you take that track and you didn't completely finish the barnyard, and you gotta go with your gut. Sometimes it ain't right, sometimes it is.
And
Yeah.
it costs you when you're wrong.
It's like when they go out, when they've gone out and back on their tracks, it's like, do you finish it, or did he do this another time?
And you're making
Is that
decisions.
yeah? You gotta go with what you think, and
Right.
sometimes it ain't right.
50,
Sometimes it
50.
is.
Roll the dice.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And the more you roll the dice, the more likely you are to win. But you're also going to lose a pretty fair amount, probably most of the time. So it's like you got to be willing to
Take the chance.
just take a chance, go for it. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's a waste. And when you've taken a whole day and just kind of thrown it away, and you get back to the rig and you say, oh, well,
Sometimes you've done
that's the way it goes.
You've done all of your work ahead of time, and you've got it right down to a T, and then you get in your stand or whatever, and he doesn't show.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so many other factors. The problem is we still rely really heavily on what the deer is going to do. Right? Like you said, if he's walking and he doesn't stop, you're not going to catch him. If he doesn't come in to the spot that you're at, you're not going to get him.
I don't care how committed you are.
It's you're still like he still has to come and meet you halfway.
Something's got to
You
work.
gotta,
And make a mistake.
That's
you
right.
gotta see him before he sees you, or
Mhm.
at least be in a spot where you can do something about it. Hopefully, he stopped, laid down, or he's eating, and
The wind is not
the wind's not going the wrong way.
right.
You have some luck on your side, and he just happens to double back or
Yeah.
cross back over his own track fresh.
Good timing for you, bad timing for him.
Right.
The
and,
more-
and even then, you got to meet him in a spot
Yeah.
where he's kind of screwed too.
Yes.
And a lot of times they're not. You're
More
screwed.
often than not, they're not.
Especially-
They pick the spots they go to for a reason, right? Because
of
they
times.
feel safe and comfortable, and this is what has worked well for them.
And
Especially-
sometimes it's just luck.
It-
That bugger's just lucky. He happened to be behind that tree just the right amount so he could see you and you couldn't see him.
5 seconds can change a lot of
That's
things.
right. You know, and if you'd have waited 30 seconds or even, and he steps out and there he is and bang, you know, and you're always making decisions. Do I go faster? Do I go slower? Do I take this track? Do I take that track? It's nonstop decision making. And if you don't like to make decisions, tracking may not be for
You're
you.
looking
because
to
it's
the
gonna,
left when he's standing on the right.
Yeah.
And you're moving. He's not.
And that's one of the things that I think is kind of almost like freeing about, you know, having a spot and staying there. But on the same token, it's probably not, because whenever I sit, there's a little voice in the back of my head that goes, I should be in that spot over there. You know what I mean? And that's the same. Like
He could be right around the corner over
yeah.
there.
Oh, what if we just like, you know what I mean? We'll just go over there.
You're like, shut
Right.
up.
I know. And it's like you have to commit, but you can't stay stuck to that as well. If something's not working, there's probably a reason why. Right? And doing some kind of investigation as to why that is. You know, if you pick a spot and you never see a deer and they never come down to you, you might want to figure that out.
This entire conversation might make you want to think that you have to think your way through all of this. And sometimes that thinking is what screws you up.
Right.
You know, you
Yes.
start intellectualizing and turning this deer into some kind of brainiac, right? And he's just out wandering.
Doing what
He's
deer do.
Most of them don't
wandering.
know you're behind them.
No,
They're
they
just out
don't
for a
have a
walk.
clue. They're not setting up this plan for you. They're just
The booby
out.
traps.
Right. They're
He's
just
gonna
out
get his
walking.
eye poked on this stick.
It's just the way it is, you know, and like you can overthink of it all,
Yeah.
and then next thing you know, you've thought yourself into a corner, and you don't even want to go out anymore, and like the spontaneousness of what hunting should be is lost, and you don't want to lose that. You want to keep that because that's really good.
Which is what we kind of want it to
Yeah.
be about, which is why we don't do all the preseason stuff that a lot of other guys do, is because it's nice for it to be like,
It just worked out, man.
it's just
spontaneous.
weird.
Yep. And when it does, it feels really good.
Same thing. I don't use cameras.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, I don't want to see that next
Right.
deer.
right.
I don't want. I like looking at pictures. I like looking at other people's pictures, but I don't want to see the deer that I'm going to get.
That's right.
You actually tried doing some cameras on your property though, and you got a nice spot. Yours a yardy kind of area. There's always deer in your neck of the woods.
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't want to lay claim to a deer that I have not laid my hands on.
Mm-hmm.
If that's my deer, I've got pictures of him when he was a baby to when he's 20 years
Yeah.
old, and it's like, no,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
find
mine. It's
I find
everybody's deer.
myself doing that with tracks though.
Mhm.
I'll be like, that's the track. If there's something
There
like
he
if there's
is.
something that stands out, like the deer that you and I were tracking that had blood in his track, Dad was like, there he is, right? And he didn't want anybody else but that buck. He's like, that's the one that got away. I want that one. And you spent a lot of days on that buck trying
Yeah.
to find that buck and get him, and it costed you a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
And that's part of the gamble.
But you never know.
You could have gotten
It
him.
might have been the.
Right, it's opportunity cost.
Right.
It is. That's actually a really good way to put it. It's
That's all it is.
opportunity
That's
cost.
all it is.
That's a good
Yeah.
way to put it.
Because
you paid
it's-
for it.
You could go after him or you go after another deer. It's the same. I could do this business
Choices,
venture,
choices,
this business
choices.
venture, that's all it is. It's all everything is.
Oh yeah. And Tracy and I start in on him, and we go a little bit, and you know, you'll get to see this video where him and I are starting to track this crazy Ivan deer, and we're going along and we're developing a relationship with this deer. You know, the way he acts,
Wondering
and
what
he
he
does,
looks like and all
wondering
that.
what he's like, and we're looking. He's got a cool track. It's really a different track. I've never seen one like that. And as we're going along, and I'm explaining and talking, and he's like, "Why is this thing just randomly walking through nowhere? This is nowhere where we are right now. This is nowhere." I'm like, "Yes, it is nowhere."
Yeah,
And
welcome
this
to
deer-
Mirkwood.
Yeah, he is walking through this nowhere, and I understand it looks stupid, and I don't know why he is walking through this nowhere, but we're gonna just go with it.
Maybe
And then,
we'll find out.
And then he gave us all the clues, and it was the first time, and it was fresh, and everything's cool. And he jumps up in front of us, and I'm like, there he is, right there. And he go kaboom, kaboom, kaboom down through, and I couldn't get the camera on anywhere near fast enough. And kind of expecting, but that time of year they don't usually lay down too much, and this one happened to. And he happened to lay down in a beautiful spot, and we were screwed.
And laid down right on his track.
Yeah,
he didn't do nothing to warn you.
And when they go bouncing off, he did warn us, but it was like 400 yards.
Yeah, so you're like, maybe
before,
he won't.
And I'm like, maybe. But he had done it way back, halfway through the day. He had done a, maybe I ought to take a break kind of walk. And he pulled up underneath a little roof, and he stood there for a second. And I said, maybe something's going on here. Fed a little bit, and then went back to just being a buck. Yeah. He said, nope, this ain't it. Let's just keep trucking. And then he did another little pull-up. And another little short pull-up, and I said, maybe, but boy, this is a terrible spot for him to lay down. It's windy, and it's just not, it doesn't feel right, and you can tell the buck didn't feel right. Then takes right off like normal, goes about 400 yards and parks. And like we just couldn't see that coming, after especially 400 yards.
Yeah.
And just comes to a park, and now he jumps up, and off he goes. And Tracy's like, oh.
That's a deer.
And there it goes. Yep.
That was a giant.
Okay. So I guess we're back to following him.
Yep.
Yep. And it was a great thing. And to develop that little legend
and relationship
in a relationship with that buck is cool. And I like that part. And I don't really want to know every little thing about him. I want to discover it as we go. And like then when he's finally laying there, it's like, there's the dragon.
There's a little bit of magic that happens when you just go for it and it just goes clink.
Yes.
And it all just works out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Run buck was great.
It was a magical. It was just like, it was almost like stupid how it worked out. It was just like, these are all the things you hear about. Wow. Right?
Oh my God.
The legends and the stories and the songs all came together that day.
That really dusty book that Dad and all of his friends wrote.
Yeah.
It's all true.
Sometimes things are just meant to be, and you got to go with it.
Yep. Sometimes you can't
You
mess
got
it
to
up.
go with your gut.
We like to let the story unfold a lot of times. Right. It makes it more
but
enjoyable.
at a cost.
That's right.
Costs you.
And it costs you time and gaining all the information in order to, because as the season starts ticking away, you start trying to make it happen more and more and more and more. And by then, it's like if you were going to do that, you should have started at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
If you're going to go at it with let's get this done, start from day one and hammer all the way through. Right. Because like if you're like meh half, and then like now 3/4, 80% of the season's over, and you're like right, and it's like rushing the night before a paper was due when you were a kid. That
it can get you by.
But there's a better way.
Yeah.
There is some satisfaction to all of a sudden going, well, we have to get this done. Like coyote buck, like that day. And you're like, I don't really want it. And you're looking at it, you're like, it's a good deer, And I'm like, Dad, we got like 5 hours left, dog. And it was like, let's go. And we're like, okay, we decided to make it happen. Called the shots, worked out, and it clicked. And it was like, it was great.
And listen to the little voices you have.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Joe's like, we got to go in the woods today. Okay, it's raining. Yeah, and it's going to rain more. I can see the clouds coming. And like, okay, let's go poke around. Hey, poke. And then all of a sudden you're into it.
Yeah.
You're just doing it. And you're doing what you always do.
You got to go for it.
And then all of a sudden, boom, there's a weasel. And he's boing and looking at me. And then I'm filming him. And then away he goes, And I'm like, oh, that was cool. And then up the hill, what do we got over here? And it's some sign. And next thing you know, deer. Right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We've learned a lot in the last 48 hours just by taking a few rainy days to kind of be chill and just do some boots on the ground and do some road work and kind of just learn some more. And then when the weather gets right, now we apply all the stuff that we did on our kind of more relaxed days and our info days. And now when you have opportunity, you hammer. If you have good weather, good conditions, and everything's right and timing, go get it done. Don't mess around.
Then when he's hanging on the wall, you're going to look at that thing and you're going to say, wow, you know how hard I worked for that thing?
Satisfaction.
It is. Yep.
The day Cocoa Puff gets his 200.
Not to mention the days that you didn't work hard.
Yeah.
And you say, that was a gift.
It was magic.
It just stood there.
Rodney gets another gift from God. We're driving down that little spur road that we took today. And I was like, I'm just looking out the window. And I thought it, because we're converting all of our old hunting tapes to digital so we can use them on YouTube and stuff. And I thought of the tote road, and I thought of Donnell, because we just put the video out with Donnell that we just did, Dragon Logan's deer, and Donnell going, They just stand there and wait for you to shoot them. It's sickening. Right? And we both laughed about it for a long time. We were just like, and that's what it was. That day, that horrendous, one of your best scoring deer.
130-inch deer just stood there and went, huh? And just looked at me from a skid road 15 minutes before
Way back
dark,
when.
down in the woods, just standing there staring at me, just an idiot. And let me shoot him, and when they come along and it's a gift, well, I walked 1 billion miles.
Yeah.
I earned that deer this year.
That's your dividends.
Right? Yeah. So it's like when a gift does come along, you want to take it because that's really, it's nice to have one stand there for once and have it go easy. And it won't do that all the time. But when it does, you want it to, that's for sure.
It doesn't happen all the time for some people. Coco and I are like, Yep.
If you like what you're doing, you're going to give us some.
Yeah. Go out there, enjoy the hunt either way. You guys will make it happen. Thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions, suggestions for future topics and stuff, you can send those over to our podcast email, askmtndeer@gmail.com. And you can always reach out to us on YouTube and watch all Coco Bus videos.
World famous.
On Instagram and all that jazz, and looking forward to the rest of the deer season. We still have plenty of time left. We still have weather coming. Casey said there's snow coming, so that's very exciting.
We're going to need it.
Yep. From all of us here at Deer Camp 2020, moving into muzzleloader season, about halfway through it.
Happy hunting, guys.
Congratulations, all you guys who got them. Great job. Keep it up.
Yep.
Have fun.
Happy hunting. Get a big one.
See ya.
So long. Bye-bye.